This is a good time historically for us to be having a conversation about trust. I think of trust as having two parts. There's personal and institutional. And on the personal front, there are prevailing trends going on, countervailing trends going on right now. There is a long-term, slow, structural decline in people's propensity to trust as measured by the General Social Survey, and that's worrisome. But on the other hand, there's some other countervailing trends that people are more willing to trust strangers through things like social networks, the movement of collaborative consumption. You know, all those are kind of positive, and to some extent they're offsetting. The real issue is not with personal trust. It's with institutional trust, which, by the way, makes us default to the personal stuff when it's not working right. There's no doubt that the trust levels that we have in institutions, corporations, governments, politics, even governing bodies of professions are all under fire, not without reason, partly because those institutions have become short-term oriented, selfishly, self-aggrandizingly fixed, and therefore they are, objectively speaking, less trustworthy. And second of all, because people have gotten whipped up by those same kinds of ideologies and are in principle less willing to trust. So if people are not willing to trust and the institutions that they would trust are less trustworthy, bingo, you get a double-barreled recipe for lower trust, and that's what we have. It's already gotten bad, it's already been harmful. It can get worse. I say it's an opportune time for us to be addressing this because it's costly and painful for it to watch it get even worse. Some things I would hope that the Consortium for Trustworthy Organizations could do going forward. I think there are probably two lessons that really need reinforcing over and over. And while there's theoretical acceptance of these, you don't see it very practically. Number one is we need to think more long-term. Our models, our practices, our metrics, our behaviors. Short-term thinking is part of the death of trust. If you're only going to interact with people transactionally, then it's easy to treat them as strangers. If companies view business as a series of one-off market-based transactions, then there's no ground, there's no fertile ground on which trust can develop. The fact of the mortgage industry in the U.S. is a great example. It wasn't that long ago, just 20, 30 years ago, that the movie It's a Wonderful Life was pretty much real. You had people taking out mortgages with the local savings bank, which held those mortgages, employed people who worked in the same town with them, and people held mortgage burning parties after they paid it all off. That's completely gone. We've disintermediated everything, and we've substituted all those relationships. In their place, we put in transactions that are one-off transactions with no relationships. So one thing this group can do is focus on relationships, not transactions. And related to that, as I said, is longer term. You can't have relationships transactionally. They have to, almost by definition, take place in the longer term. That's something I think can be emphasized by this group over and over, taking the long term in relationships. The other one I think is stories. An institution like this is in a good position, I think, to share success stories and failures. Honestly, we learn more from failures, I think, than we do from successes, and I think a group like this is well served to do that. Pure academic micro-research I find the least interesting. I think we do have to point out some of the prevailing belief systems and give people tangible examples, real stories that give them cause for hope and ways to learn and get traction.